Kidnapping children is not what great nations do. We in America are misinformed. Reality shows have warped our idea of what a hero is, or what the truth is.
You take people like Jay-Z and Pusha T, they made their living killing our people, so how the fuck they gonna stand up? You know what I'm saying? You think they would ever tell the truth? No, if they told the truth, I didn't go to jail. You know what I'm saying? So you have liars.
Look at an interview from me from 10 years ago. Everybody says, I love that interview. People didn't love it back then though, because I was speaking to the future. I'm 10 years ahead mentally, and I'm trapped in today's time. And every now and then I crack you a smile for 2013, but I'm cracking you a frown for 2023. And I'm focused on what it's gonna be. Just mark my words, as I'm Kanye West, you seen my...
No vindication for me, because for 4 years, I've been screaming, not just Diddy, but Diddy and Jay-Z are monsters. And the victim-making machine kept going.
We are linked to Island. What?
Don't see the lineup?
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, we see the lineup. I'm just waiting to see who's next.
Jay-Z is setting Diddy up.
Go down, we seen R. Kelly. Why does Jay-Z keep slipping through the cracks? That's the guy I'm waiting for. You're sending everybody to jail but Jay-Z, the damn ringleader. The only people brave enough to call this guy out is 50 Cent and Nicki Minaj. Where you at, Charlemagne? Say something. Where you at, Shade Room? What, Shade Room don't wanna, they deleting posts now? What are you afraid of? Who is this guy? Oh, that's right, he's a criminal. Didn't he stab his brother or something? And he's selling drugs, the kingpin. Self-admitted, by the way. That's why you're scared. So why does the NFL work with him? Why you got him doing the Super Bowl? Yeah, freaking Kendrick Lamar. Nobody knows Kendrick Lamar. You got this weirdo hopping up and down the stage making all this noise. The music is trash. And now you got Bad Bunny. You're gonna have trans kissing boys on stage at the Super Bowl? I'm just waiting for Jay-Z's day, boy. Now he's popping up in the you-know-what files. Come on now. What more do you need? Saw the music he had Foxy Brown singing when she was 16 years old.
Tailor-made, the layup in the shade, reminiscing on how I sex the best. Especially when I'm sipping Baileys, don't give a damn.
I thought Foxy was like 16. That's all I'm saying.
It sounds like you.
All I'm saying is in this industry, when we live in these glass houses.
It seems like you got a question for Jay.
You gotta keep slipping through the cracks. I'm just waiting for.
And Pusha T, they made their living killing our people. So how the fuck they gonna stand up for our people? You know what I'm saying? But we forget that because we love Jay-Z's music so much. We love Pusha's music so much, right? But you think they would ever, oh, Beyonce had the best fit for somebody else? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You think they would ever tell the truth? No, if they told the truth, I didn't go to jail. You know what I'm saying? So you have liars. Man. Liars are now the face of our culture.
I think it is highly offensive for people who are smart enough to really know what's happening. Look, y'all talk all that about R. Kelly. Beyonce was on that island where they was kids.
Damn!
Beyonce was on Pedo Island. Beyonce and the camel.
Yeah. They say she was in there like, uh-oh.
Right.
I hope I can go see her again.
She was singing and look, if you like it, put your mouth on it. This is what I'm saying. It's like you give her a pass. You give her a pass. She can have a concert and everything after she's a known participant on Pedo Island. It's like people want to dismiss it. That's why you can't tell me nothing about what the media say about nobody.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the media is going to make a bad guy out of whoever they want to be the bad guy.
Jay-Z and I signed to Rock Nation. The first thing he told me to do is get plastic surgery. I'm not insecure because I would have got plastic surgery. People make it. They all can turn around and thank Beyonce because that's it. And enough is enough. Can come in for everyone now. And even Adele, when she gets an award, she thanks Beyonce. So I didn't want to drip myself in blood and cover myself and swim in goop, in black goop. And fucking like wear devil horns to fucking sell a record. Fuck that. Or be a witch, or be that, all of that.
50 Cent has finally responded to Jay-Z and Pusha T being exposed in the Epstein files. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, last night it was publicly revealed to the entire world that Pusha T and Jay-Z were both revealed to be in the Epstein files, with them being accused of doing very disturbing and nasty things. For Pusha T specifically, he was claimed in 2007 to have been with Harvey Weinstein, where he then ended up using a woman. And as for Jay-Z, his accusations are also very disturbing, with him being accused of doing something to a girl while she was sleeping. And with all of this coming out, 50 Cent couldn't waste the opportunity to go at his nemesis Jay-Z by basically blasting him and making fun of him all over social media. And this is specifically what he ended up posting to his Instagram page, which were just very weird AI photos of Jay-Z. And then 50 Cent also hinted that he is planning on doing a massive documentary with this entire situation and exposing Jay-Z, with the caption of this post saying, "Damn, they got Jay-Z on the Epstein list. I gotta do a doc on this." And 50 didn't stop there, because then he posted another photo of the headline of this entire situation breaking out, with him just pointing more jokes and fun at Jay-Z.
Is that the Shade Room just posted this and then immediately took it down? It's no longer on their page. I just screenshotted it because I was going through my stuff, and when I went to look at the comments, it was like unable to load. They took the post down.
Before I go into glam, this Epstein file shit, I have to, it's really frustrating to me, because there are 3 million files, right? 3 million documents in the files, because over the course of however long this man has been doing these crimes, every email, every text message, everything, just in general about this man's life, has been put into these files to scan for illegal activities, right? Every text message you sent to somebody. If you stole an apple from Walmart and you were on trial for stealing an apple from Walmart, is every person in your phone an accomplice? Is every person in your phone, is every email you sent to a person or speaking about a person, or does that make that person complicit? Does that make that person a bad guy? No, it doesn't. And that's the same thing with the Diddy stuff. That was so, I told y'all, the media is so smart. They're gonna make you so distracted with celebrity names that you're not gonna focus on the problem. You think every party that Diddy ever threw was a freak off and people were fucking and slipping and sliding on baby oil? No! That man had birthday parties. That man had Easter gatherings. That man had Super Bowl parties. That man had Christmas parties, Halloween parties.
For years, people brushed it off as another Kanye West rant. Too loud, too messy, too out there to take seriously. But now, with freshly released Epstein documents lighting the internet on fire and one unexpected name stopping everyone mid-scroll, those old warnings are suddenly being replayed in a very different light. Because buried beneath years of controversy, industry silence, and carefully curated images is a growing question people can't seem to shake anymore. What if the person everyone swore was untouchable was never as untouchable as we thought? Right now, the internet isn't arguing about if the Epstein files matter anymore. It's arguing about why one name stopped everyone cold. When the latest batch of documents surfaced, social media did what it always does. Skimmed, speculated, joked, then suddenly went quiet. Because buried among the expected names and familiar villains was a figure most people thought would never be touched by this kind of conversation. Not a washed-up celebrity, not a disgraced mogul already on his way down, but someone whose brand has long been built on control, respect, and moving 10 steps ahead of the culture. And once that name started trending, the reaction wasn't outrage at first, it was disbelief. People weren't saying, "I knew it." They were saying, "Wait him." And that's where the rewind gets uncomfortable. Because almost immediately, clips started resurfacing. Old interviews, old rants, old moments everyone once laughed off or wrote off as unhinged. Moments where Kanye West, years ago, was sitting in front of microphones saying things people didn't want to hear, about people they didn't want questioned. Back then, the response was easy. He was spiraling. He was bitter. He was chasing attention. The industry kept moving. The headlines faded, and Kanye became the story instead of what he was pointing at. But now, in the middle of this Epstein fallout, those same words are being replayed with a different tone. Not as proof, not as fact, but as something far harder to ignore. Kanye used to say he was speaking to the future, that he was ahead of his time and trapped in the present, screaming warnings that wouldn't make sense until years later. At the time, it sounded like ego. Now, people are noticing how specific those warnings were. He didn't speak in vague Hollywood is evil terms. He named names, alliances, power structures, and what he claimed were systems designed to protect certain figures at all costs. And whether you believe him or not, the timing is what's rattling people. Because the same individuals he accused of being untouchable are the same ones whose names now sit uncomfortably close to one of the darkest scandals in modern history. What's making this moment hit harder isn't just the documents themselves, it's the collective realization that the culture may have dismissed too much, too quickly. That while everyone was focused on Kanye's delivery, they may have ignored the direction he was pointing. Nobody is saying his words are confirmation. Nobody is saying the files are verdicts. But people are saying this. It's unsettling how often the loudest warnings come from the person everyone agrees not to take seriously. And now, with the Epstein files forcing conversations the industry avoided for years, the question isn't whether Kanye was right. It's whether we were too comfortable deciding he was wrong before we ever looked twice. For years, Kanye West occupied a strange role in pop culture. Too influential to ignore, too volatile to trust. Every time he spoke, audiences braced themselves, not for insight but for damage control. His interviews were clipped into memes, his warnings reduced to sound bites, his credibility quietly buried under headlines about meltdowns and controversy. And yet, when you line up what he's been saying over the past decade, something uncomfortable emerges. The details change, the delivery explodes, but the targets stay oddly consistent. Kanye didn't just accuse the industry in broad strokes. He kept circling the same names, the same alliances, the same invisible ceilings he claimed no one was allowed to touch. At the time, that consistency didn't make him sound prophetic, it made him sound obsessed. So people stopped listening, not because they disproved him, but because it was easier to dismiss the messenger than wrestle with the message. That pattern, dismiss now, revisit later, has followed Kanye for years. Interviews that were mocked when they aired suddenly feel eerily familiar when replayed years later, once the cultural dust settles. Not because they were accurate in detail, but because they predicted a kind of reckoning. Kanye repeatedly framed power in the music industry as something protected, insulated, and self-correcting. He warned that certain people would never fall publicly, no matter how many whispers followed them. At the time, that sounded paranoid. Now, as one powerful figure after another faces scrutiny long after rumors first surfaced, people are noticing how often Kanye was early, and how rarely he was taken seriously. That realization collides head-on with the Epstein timeline, a story that has always felt less like a case and more like a warning sign humanity ignored for too long. The accusations didn't begin quietly. They were loud, specific, and disturbing, emerging in the mid-2000s when young girls described abuse inside Epstein's Palm Beach mansion. And yet, despite the severity, the consequences were shockingly soft. A plea deal, a sentence that felt symbolic rather than punitive. Early release. The message was clear without ever being spoken. This was a man protected by something larger than law enforcement. Years later, when Epstein was rearrested on federal charges, it felt less like justice and more like a second chance the system didn't want to explain. And then, suddenly he was dead, officially ruled a suicide. Unofficially, a question mark that refuses to disappear. What followed was silence. Long, deliberate silence, punctuated by one demand that never went away. Release the files. Victims, journalists, and the public pushed for years to see the names, the connections, the paper trail that explained how Epstein moved so freely among the powerful. Every delay fueled suspicion. Every redaction fed conspiracy. So when documents finally began surfacing, They didn't land like answers. They landed like sparks in dry grass. People weren't reading them like court rulings. They were scanning them like receipts. And then came the moment that changed the tone entirely. The name drop, not announced with fanfare, not confirmed with clarity, but appearing just enough to ignite disbelief. Jay-Z, a name synonymous with longevity, strategy, and survival. A man who has outlasted scandals, feuds, and entire industry eras without ever being seriously touched. The reaction wasn't instant condemnation, it was confusion. His alleged mention in the files was ambiguous, wrapped in claims, counterclaims, and unanswered questions. No definitive accusation. No smoking gun. Just enough proximity to make people stop scrolling and start rereading. That ambiguity is exactly why the reaction exploded. Because Jay-Z doesn't live in the category of men people expect to see in this conversation. He represents control, clean exits, carefully curated silence. So even the suggestion of his name appearing in documents tied to Epstein disrupted something deeper than fandom. It disrupted the myth that certain figures are too smart, too insulated, too powerful to ever be adjacent to chaos. And that's where the conversation subtly but decisively shifted. Away from, did he do it? And towards something far harder to brush aside. Why was he there at all? In scandals like this, innocence isn't always the central issue. Access is. Proximity. Rooms entered, circles shared, environments tolerated. People online weren't demanding verdicts. They were asking why someone with everything to lose would be anywhere near someone with Epstein's reputation. In a world where powerful men are famous for protecting themselves, curiosity becomes suspicion fast. That suspicion only grew once people started connecting dots that had existed quietly for years. Jay-Z's long association with Diddy, another once untouchable figure, now facing his own avalanche of allegations, suddenly felt heavier in hindsight. Old footage resurfaced, clips of private conversations, moments where body language looked tense, guarded, uncomfortable. None of it proves anything, and that's exactly why it matters. Because gossip culture doesn't run on proof, it runs on patterns. And the pattern people think they're seeing now is one of proximity to power, not coincidence. Audio clips and interviews once dismissed as noise are being replayed as context. Not evidence, not confirmation, but atmosphere. The sense that there was always something happening just off camera, protected by money, influence, and the unspoken rule that some names are never supposed to be said out loud. Whether those suspicions hold up or collapse under scrutiny remains to be seen. But in this moment, the story isn't about guilt. It's about how quickly certainty dissolves when silence lasts too long, and how even the most carefully managed images can start to crack when the questions refuse to go away. What made this moment feel different wasn't just who was being discussed. It was who suddenly went quiet. As the internet spiraled, fans noticed an eerie silence from the usual industry voices. No carefully worded statements. No protective think pieces. No loud celebrity defenses from the people who normally rush in to shape the narrative. That vacuum didn't calm things down, it made them louder. Because while the gatekeepers stayed mute, the outsiders stepped forward without hesitation. 50 Cent did what he's always done. Mocked, posted, teased bigger revelations, and leaned fully into the role of the person who says what others won't. Nicki Minaj's past comments were pulled back into circulation, framed not as prophecy, but as proof that tension around these names has existed behind the scenes for years. Comedians, podcast hosts, fringe commentators, people with nothing to lose and no industry protection, filled the silence left by mainstream media. And that contrast mattered. It mirrored a growing frustration audiences already feel, that the people with platforms stay quiet, while the people without filters tell the story everyone's whispering about. That frustration only intensified when the discourse expanded beyond one name. Because once Jay-Z entered the conversation, Beyoncé wasn't far behind. Not through accusations, but through association. Her name surfacing didn't dominate the narrative, but it widened it. Suddenly, this wasn't just about one powerful man. It was about a power couple that represents near total cultural immunity. Beyoncé's involvement wasn't treated as a standalone claim so much as an escalation. For fans, it raised a different kind of tension. How far does proximity stretch before it becomes part of the story? The very mention of her name shifted the tone online because it challenged the idea that anyone, no matter how beloved, is completely untouchable. And that discomfort, more than any allegation, kept people glued to their screens. Then came the moment that poured gasoline on everything, posts disappearing, screenshots circulating, claims that major gossip platforms uploaded stories, only to quietly delete them minutes later. Shade Room became the center of speculation, not for what it said, but for what it removed. Theories flew instantly. Alleged phone calls, alleged pressure, alleged reminders of who controls access and advertising dollars. Whether any of that is true almost became secondary to how it felt. Because audiences have seen this before. Stories trend, then vanish. Narratives shift overnight. And when a post disappears without explanation, people don't assume innocence. They assume influence. In an era where virality is currency, deletion reads like power flexing its muscles in real time. But right when the conversation threatened to spiral into certainty, something else happened. Skepticism pushed back. Not from defenders, but from people tired of false conclusions. A reminder echoed across timelines and comment sections. Being named in documents isn't the same as being guilty. Appearing in files doesn't equal conviction. Proximity doesn't automatically mean participation. And that pause mattered. It slowed the pace just enough to keep the story grounded. Because without it, outrage burns fast and burns out faster. Skepticism didn't kill the conversation. It made it sharper. It shifted the focus from verdicts to systems, from individuals to patterns, from scandal to structure. And that's where the story leaves us. Not with answers, but with inevitability. Jay-Z now occupies a strange space in the public imagination. One of the last figures standing from an era where power meant permanence. Others have fallen. Others have been exposed, charged, dragged, or erased. And yet he remains strategic, silent, still untouched. For some, that's proof of innocence. For others, it's proof of insulation. The truth may land somewhere in between, or somewhere else entirely. But the question hanging in the air won't go away. In an industry where myths are collapsing one by one, is this silence the calm before nothing happens, or the calm before everything does?